Hello out there. Hope y'all are doing well whenever you get this message. I'm going to try to speak more closely into the mic today. I know when I lean in more that you can hear me better. And I'm in a large, big city right now in the middle of a downtown area. So I know sound is going to be more important. I hope that y'all are doing great. Today's topic is on the 360 degrees of love. This is a great opportunity and time to have this conversation because we just had a full moon in Scorpio yesterday in the sign of Taurus. And so when we look at the astrological wheel, Taurus and Scorpio are polar opposites of each other. So we had a 360-degree meeting of the astrological signs yesterday during that full moon. And it also happened on an interesting day, which is Beltane. Okay. Beltane is known for different fertility rituals, specifically in Europe. And at the same time, Beltane, you can find Beltane rituals all around, specifically the Western world. Okay. So even though they show us clips of Beltane rituals happening in Europe, where do they, kind of like around the Stonehenge type area, that sort of stuff. They actually extend in many, many different fertility rites and the way that we specifically organize our world and realm of existence in the West. Okay. So it was a very interesting time for there to be a full moon in Scorpio, which is opposing Taurus. So right there, it's already giving us this sense of 360-degree spectrums of love. Usually, Taurus represents more of the upper world love, okay, the spectrum of fertility, the spectrum of blossoming growth. A lot of marriages happen in May. A lot of new beginnings happen in May and in the spring. And at the same time, there's a polarity to that. A lot of times, what we're not really focusing as much on in astrology, which is why we go through this process of deprogramming the birth chart, because what Western astrology will specifically tell us about are the ways in which Taurus has to do with fertility and growth and blossoming and love and romance. But then there's an underworld and underbelly that happens with Scorpio as it relates to that. And what that is that a lot of times there are certain beings who are utilized as fertilizer for growth to happen. Okay. And that's the undercurrent that happens with the realm of love in the time of Taurus. And having a full moon in Scorpio really highlights that, specifically at a time with a lot of fertility rituals. Okay. So, welcome for folks coming in. You're welcome to stay. You're welcome to comment if anything comes up for you that you have a question about. Um, Trolls are also welcome if you want to troll. I don't mind a troll. Okay, I actually get a kick out of hanging out with trolls sometimes. Okay. Only thing I don't do is spam. So the only way that you'll get blocked from this conversation is if you choose to spam my comments. Okay, that's the only reason why I would kick you out. Okay. Otherwise, you're welcome to stay. And yeah, and I look forward to diving deep into this conversation. Awesome. Hi, Maria. So I want to talk about sponsorship. Okay, my channel is not monetized, and I feel good about that. I feel good about not monetizing. Okay, I've gone back and forth with it. I monetized for a bit, and I didn't. I don't know, like something about the vibe. It just threw off the vibe. Okay. So I'm happy to not sponsor or have like a sponsor for my channel, at least in the third dimensional sort of way. But I wanna also offer a new perspective on sponsorship because instead of it being monetary, there are times when I get certain messages from very certain algorithms. or from very specific ways of knowing. Okay, so with that being said, I will say that this conversation is being sponsored by the frequencies of Inanna, who is the Queen of Heaven. Okay, the Queen of Heaven. She's also the Queen of Earth. Okay, now I will say, as I've been diving into the frequency of like Beltane rituals and stuff, really the Earth has more of a masculine frequency. Okay, and this has been done by the way of the priesthood. Okay, and this is the frequency of the green man. All right, the green man kind of holds it down, and there are a lot of beings that get mentioned in different mythologies as being the king of the earth. Okay, so a lot of times Beltane rituals have to do with, depending upon which side of the polarity you're on. Beltane could either mean that there is the king of the earth who's more of an underworld kind of frequency, a beastly kind of frequency, who is connecting with the frequencies of a maiden or a priestess, a lot of times more in a sacrificial sort of frequency. It's giving Rosemary's Baby. If anybody's seen Rosemary's Baby, okay, it's giving that kind of frequency. So sometimes, depending on what side of the polarity you're on, there's that king of the earth who's more of a king of the underworld, okay, who's tapping in and connecting with or exploiting, let's just keep it real, exploiting the energies of the feminine. And this supports with the cultivation and propulsion of the electromagnetic force and the planetary magnetism for priesthoods who have been holding it down on this planet for quite some time. But there's another polarity. There's a polarity of more of like, if we go into the Egyptian sort of pantheons of Nut, who is the goddess of the sky, and then Geb, who is the god of the earth. Once again, king of the earth. The earth is, you have to go through a masculine frequency to unlock some of the secrets of the earth. They talk to us a lot about Mother Earth, okay, and how Earth is a mother and all that stuff, and more feminine. And yeah, of course, there's an aspect to it, but you need to go through the key of why, or the masculine, frequency, in order to unlock those energies. That's what they won't tell you about. Okay. Those are some of the secrets of Beltane. But if you're on another side of the polarity, instead of it being like a weird, beastly underworld kind of frequency where a priestess is getting sacrificed to this beastly sort of energy in order to fertilize certain populations' growth and expansion. And by the way, this is all for entertainment purposes only. Nothing that I say is real nor not real. Okay. I will neither confirm that what I say is real, and I won't confirm that it's not real. That's up for your beautiful discernment. Okay. I'm an oracle. I'm more of a creative being. Okay, so I like to utilize different methods of media and art and mythology to explore certain concepts of this game of life. Okay. Uh, all right. Hello from London. Hello from London. Okay. So there's another frequency, if you're on more of the upper side of the polarity and if you're in a feminine frequency where you're not being sacrificed, you can embody this frequency of the Queen of Heaven. Okay. And those secrets rest with Inanna. Okay. The Queen of Heaven, also known as Nut, the sky goddess. Okay. Nut and Geb merging together. So basically, instead of the goddess being sacrificed from the bottom, okay, that underworld current, which a lot of times you can find in Scorpio. The more Taurus polarity to that would be Queen of Heaven, okay, descending to the earth, to the king of the earth, to connect and create this 360-degree electromagnetic field, okay? So, in order for the feminine on this planet right now to get the most out of the frequencies of Taurus or different fertility rituals, you would want to be in your fullness, or the Queen of Heaven. You would want to be embodying that archetype. The fullness is also something that's known as the pleroma in Gnosticism. Okay, so if you want to learn more about that, check out Gnosticism and what they say about the pleroma. A lot of times you'll hear about the story of the fall of Sophia in Gnosticism. And the fall of Sophia, what this represents a lot of times is the feminine basically falling from grace outside of her fullness, okay, and being in a state of fall. And if you have been identifying with scripts related to the fall of Sophia based upon the energies of the demiurge, well, then you would find yourself on that bottom polarity. More of this idea of being sacrificed to weird gods or priesthoods. Okay. So if you are somebody who's been in those sacrifice narratives, you would really, really, really want to take a look at the 360 degrees of love. Okay. Because love is a full circle. What does this mean? This means that if you've had experiences where you felt as though love was pain or love was sacrifice or love always kept you at a loss, love always felt you had you feeling depleted, these kinds of things, if this has been your story, well then you would want to connect with the frequencies of Inanna, because Inanna is an archetype that didn't just she wasn't just the queen of heaven. She also had a fall into the underworld, and she mastered the underworld, and she was able to rise back up to being the queen of heaven, but doing so in more of a state of completion. Can you imagine what would it look like? Probably somebody who's just been the queen of heaven all their lives would probably be a little annoying, a little entitled. Okay, they only had an opportunity to see life from up top. They didn't have a chance to get it out of the mud, or have that experience of a lotus, the way a lotus has to bloom through the mud and all the yuck. Okay, there's a deeper form of sophistication that you can experience if you've been able to have the experience of being the queen of heaven, the queen of earth, and the queen of the underworld, and this ability to be able to master all of these realms. Okay, this would leave you at more of an advantage than somebody who's just been queen of heaven all their life, and then their ancestors were queen of heaven time after time. These are some of the secrets of Inanna. So to do this, though, you would need to experience love in a 360-degree sort of way. So if you've always been in your fall, if you've been in this story of being of falling from grace, if you've resonated more with the frequencies of Sophia in her fall and basically being controlled by archonic forces, well, then you are at a disadvantage and you are at a state of incompletion. At some point, you would also need to experience the other side of the polarity. You would need to experience being the queen of heaven, and you being able to hold that frequency of fullness, to hold the frequency of the pleroma after you had the experience of being in the underworld and having to get it out of the mud. When you are resting in heaven with all those other queens of heaven that maybe got that sort of positionality based upon bloodlines, based upon inequity, well, who's the real queen of heaven then? You know, because you mastered the underworld. Okay, so you would have more of a 360-degree approach and knowing to love. Okay. So I am going to, so keep your comments going. I'm going to pause in a bit to note the comments. Thanks for folks stopping by and joining in. So as I said earlier, this conversation is being sponsored by Inanna, okay? For more information about the frequencies of the 360 degrees of love, I do have a link below for my book known as Inanna's Love Letters. It's an ebook, actually. So I want to actually start with a quote from Inanna from this book. Okay, I got this channeling, and I share the area that I was in where Inanna's presence is very, very prevalent. Okay, might surprise you. So it says, love begins in a circle. The circle is not a shape, it is a capacity, a living architecture within you that can hold all directions at once without breaking under contradiction. Until you become the circle, you will only ever touch fragments of me. You have been taught to, to love in pieces. You have known the love that asks for proof, the love that clings to avoid loss, the love that bargains for safety, the love that dissolves itself to be chosen. These are not the circle, these are angles. So when you love from an angle, you must turn away from something else. You say, I love you, but not when you change. I love you, but not when you leave. I love you, but not when you become sovereign. This is not failure, but incompletion. I am not an angle. I am the totality of the circle. Okay, so that's the frequency of Inanna and a little bit of what she says about the 360 degrees of love. But what does it take? Because the thing about Inanna is she's the goddess of love, but she's also the goddess of war, because love is a form of war. Okay, it always has been. The romance that they packaged for us to reserve love for certain days, whether it's Mother's Day or whether it's Valentine's Day, that was love at an angle. That was love to keep you compliant. That was love to keep you boxed in. Okay, but you know, sometimes in order to control the masses, you got to give them some breadcrumbs, right? You know what they say? What do they call it? Bread in circuses. So these days that we have set aside for love or honor of the feminine have been a part of the bread and circuses. And it has not been love at a 360-degree approach. Another thing that we've been taught in our society is that love is sacrifice. A particular figure that has come up related to this. And when I was doing lives at the time when I was channeling this book, I was getting a lot in my comments related to Jesus. Okay, I was getting a lot of zealots, religious zealots in my comments talking about how Jesus is king, how I need to repent. Okay, Jesus loves me, but he needs me to, you know, repent for my sins, that sort of thing. And I always take that as data and information, because what that's showing me is that there's a certain part of the algorithm that I'm experiencing. And sometimes this is why I like trolls, because sometimes trolls will give me that information. It might not be in a way that I like, okay, but it's still helpful, okay? So at the time when I was channeling this book, Inanna's love letters, there was a lot of frequencies related to love being sacrificed that I was moving through, and that I was needing to replace with more of a 360-degree approach of love. At the time, I was specifically learning about the Virgin Mary, specifically, and there's different versions of the Virgin Mary. You know, the Queen of Heaven is another version of the Virgin Mary. I go more in depth in my shorts if you're interested in that. But there's an Our Lady of Sorrows version of the Virgin Mary, known as Dolores. Okay, this is more of a light blue frequency, and this is an energy of the mother, the feminine, needing to hold the sorrows of the collective in order for the collective to thrive. And this has been perpetuated in many, many different ways, whether it's been in religion, whether it's been in media, whether it's been in family expectations. There have been covenants, biblical covenants specifically, that have held this frequency together. And you know, whether or not you are interested in religion or interested in the Bible, if you're really serious about crossing certain dimensional thresholds and having a 360-degree experience on this planet, you will need to go through some of those biblical covenants. And so, as I was channeling the messages of Inanna, I was also going through certain, excavating through certain biblical covenants at the same time. And you can see this in the lives. I'm utilizing the lives as a form of documentation of, it's like field research, field notes on my journey. So yeah, you can check out the lives and you can get a little bit more of a sense of that. But at the time, Inanna was sharing with me that she is more of a completed sense of the Christ frequency, because with Jesus, there's always going to be a frequency of sacrifice, and that's found in the number 33. Whereas Inanna would be more of a frequency of 36, okay, or that 360-degree approach. Now, 33, they call it a master number in Masonry, and they do that for good reason, okay? Because they need sacrifice. These priesthoods really, really need sacrifice in order to keep their structures going, okay? There's no structure without the sacrifice. It has to happen. So they needed to embed it in certain numerical codes and certain practices, and they repackaged it as being, oh, this is what's going to advance you. This is a master number. Oh yeah, Jesus was lucky that he died or was sacrificed on at the age of 33. He died a master. Okay. But really, when you add, I don't go for the whole master number thing. I'm still adding the numbers 3 and 3 together, and it still equals 6, which is more of an energy of service and sacrifice. It's actually an energy of the priestess. And one thing that's been done in the simulations hologram is that the priestess, if you're not in your fullness, okay, if you don't have your wings, if you're not of the sky or of the waters, okay, then you are in your fall, or maybe you're Nephilim, or maybe you're a fallen angel. And there's all these mythologies around why Nephilim are in a state of fall. Okay, but that adds up to 6. So they really, really needed this sacrificial frequency of Christ. But one thing I was learning as I was experiencing some of the frequencies of the green man and Beltane is that Christ is the green man. Christ is Osiris. Christ is also something known as El Cristo Negro, which they celebrate more in Central America and certain parts of South America. The Lord of the underworld. Yes, Christ is an underworld Lord. Okay. This is why you'll see certain connections to Christ and the serpent as well. Christ is Osiris. Christ is the green man. Christ is the Lord of the underworld. Okay. Christ is also, what they would call more of a king of the earth. It's all the same frequency, y'all. You can find this in the energies of Beltane. This is why Easter happens when it does. Okay, so there's a sacrificial frequency to these energies. And, there's one side, one thing that as you navigate the simulations hologram is that there's always a polarity of something happening. So in one realm, yes, Christ is a sacrifice. He's the lamb, the lamb of God, all that. He's marked for sacrifice, and he's sometimes more of a victim. And that's what I was getting a lot of, is I wasn't seeing the full spectrum of Christ. But in another realm, the crucifixion, what's that thing called? What's the thing? The thing that the halo, it's not the crown of thorns. So in one realm, the crown of thorns represents Christ being sacrificed. But in another realm, y'all, the crown of thorns are horns. He becomes the horned one, or the horned God. Okay? So in one realm, Christ is being sacrificed, but in another realm, he's doing the sacrificing. These are the secrets of Beltane. These are the secrets of the green man. Going deeper, one thing that happens in the times of Beltane is these rituals take place in the woods, by the trees. Trees are synonymous a lot of times with cross. This is also why you've seen rituals of lynching. So, in the southern United States, across the Mason-Dixon line, it was pretty common for lynchings to happen. The trees are where sacrifices occur. Sometimes you get cut off from the skies and the water through certain family tree lineages that you're anchored into. That's another form of sacrifice. That's another form of the cross. So there is a sacrificial energy to trees that you start learning as you peer beneath the surface and you gain access to the energies of the green man. Okay? So love is 360 degrees, all right? And so as we look at love from a 360-degree approach, love is not just romance, that's just one shade of love. Sometimes love is sacrifice, that is a part of it. Sometimes it is complete selfishness, Okay. If you've been somebody who's been in constant sacrifice scripts, time and time again, lifetime after lifetime, sometimes these covenants are multi-generational. You do not know love. To truly know love, you would need to love from 360 degrees, and you would need to be on the other side of the polarity and be the queen of heaven. Queen of heaven does not get sacrificed. Queen of heaven outranks the horned one. Queen of heaven outranks the beast. It's only when Sophia is in her fall, when she falls from the fullness of the pleroma, that the archonic principalities are able to run havoc over her life because she forgot who she was. Okay, and so a lot of these priesthoods have been normalizing this for the masses, but this has been from a state of energy harvesting. Okay, so I'm going to, you guys know I love to add in some. I like to give y'all some examples through media. Okay, and media in the sense of movies and television sometimes are more rich, is more rich with content and information that we need to cross dimensional thresholds than even books are. Why do I say that? Because you get to a certain part in the simulation where it's not in words. You must discern symbols, colors, the hidden messages of things. This is why, it's funny because we were raised thinking that television was a waste of time. But in all actuality, sometimes if you have the eyes to see, you can learn more through television and through film than you can through reading the books, especially textbooks. And I don't really have anything to gain by saying this. I have been in the education, or I was in the education field for decades. I was a college professor. I created curriculum. I've taught many, many different grades and levels. I've taught teachers how to be teachers. So I don't necessarily, I had to, in order to step behind the veil and to cross certain dimensional thresholds, I had to leave a lot of that stuff behind. As an educator, the educator part of me is like, what? Like, how are you going to tell people that TV is more educational than books are? But being on the other side of the dimensional threshold, I see it as being true. So anyways, that is why I bring in certain films, certain songs, certain television shows to orchestrate my point. So that way, if you do want to kind of dive more into the symbolism of what I'm sharing, you have resources, you have educational resources that you can go to, okay, to learn more. So I am going to be sharing a TV show today. Let me just see what folks are saying. Okay, so Krishna, hi Krishna. Okay, Krishna says the Green Man is interesting because he was only really recognized as such by writer Lady Raglan in 1939. In contemporary pagan circles, I've seen a green man and green woman being represented. Yeah, there's also, oh man, I was going to actually write this woman's name down. It's not the name you said, Krishna. It's another name, but I don't remember the exact name. Man, I was gonna write it down. Next time I will uplift her. She's a fascinating woman. She's known as being the mother of Wicca, and she got a lot of flack. She's a very interesting individual. She lived her life completely different than what a woman in her time was supposed to have. A woman in her time was supposed to be living. Supposed to, in quotation marks. But she talked about this concept of the horned god or the green man. Okay, and it was interesting because a lot of her, she was very respected in her field, and a lot of people quoted and uplifted her work and her research. She was also a professor, but specifically in the occult sciences. But when it came to her research and her assertions about this horned god or green man that a lot of pagan rituals were founded upon, a lot of her counterparts, who were mostly males, basically were like, yeah, she's right about everything except for that. Don't just ignore what she said about that green man, horned god thing, but everything else, yeah, she's good. So I always thought that that was kind of interesting. But she was the first one to kind of uplift that sort of frequency. And she lived to be like 100 years old. She never had kids. I don't think she even got married. She was very career focused, like very into her work. And I think this was like the time of the 1800s too. So it's a very odd way for a woman in that particular time to live her life, but she did it. She was highly respected. She thrived, and she created a lot of what is now known today as Wicca. Okay. Um, okay, Krishna says probably from the Wicca iteration of the goddess and god concept. Hail Inanna. Thank you, Victor. Wow, Spirit Airlines went out of business after 33 years, says Creatress. I was just reading that. I think they set it up. You know how they were having those like okay, so on Instagram, I'm not really on TikTok like that anymore. I've been on TikTok for like a good year. I don't know what's going on with my TikTok account. I can't log in for some reason and I don't miss it. So I was like, all right, whatever. I don't need more social media. But so maybe they're doing this on TikTok too. I'm sure they are. But there have been these like funny reels that content creators have been making about Spirit Airlines being ghetto and like it's like a hoopty pulling up, all that kind of stuff. So I think they were orchestrating the going out of business of Spirit Airlines through those memes, like through those reels that were being shared, because it was like going on for at least a good 6 to 8 months, and now all of a sudden they're out of business, and just so many like so many jokes at their expense. Okay, I have to admit I stopped riding a lot of those airlines because you know what I realized is as cheap as those tickets are. What about the luggage? They always get you with luggage and stuff, and I like to have a certain amount. Like I don't want to be worried about my luggage when I'm traveling, And I just felt when I would get those cheaper tickets, I would just feel like, okay, I'm always like, okay, well, how much are they going to charge? They always charge you like super a lot for luggage. Whereas some of the more like established airlines, yeah, the tickets are a little bit cheaper, but the luggage is a lot cheaper. And I don't know, I just felt like when I book with them, it's just done. Whereas I feel like some of these like budget airlines, they try to say their budget and then they try to like, I think Spirit too, they weren't even giving you water. Like I don't know how that was legal. I remember one time I rode on Spirit and they just gave me, I was like, I want water. They're like, oh, you have to pay for that. I'm like, is that legal? They're like, well, we heated you a cup of ice. I'm like, I guess a cup of ice then. I'm like, at that point, I'm not even buying anything from y'all. You really gonna charge me for like water, like tap water? Anyway, so you know what? RIP Spirit. Okay, we deserve better though. I'm gonna say it. I said it. We deserve better. As a collective, we deserve better. But I think, yeah, that is interesting. That probably was, I think they did a whole ritual with Spirit Airlines. Even when we think about Christ representing the Holy Spirit, by the way, Holy Spirit is more of a feminine womb frequency. So that's a whole destiny swap. All right. But Spirit Airlines going out of business after 33 years, that quote master number frequency, that's a whole ass ritual. There's a whole thing going on with that. Oh, I forgot an eyebrow. Mystery M44. Tell me something else. Like, just dig into me. What else? What else am I just not on point with? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. And you got the M. You got two M's in your name. Mystery M444. So 444 means priesthood. Why? Because if you go 4 times 3, that's 12. So you priest. Then you got Eminem. So I'm thinking you got some Marduk. Are you a priest of Marduk? Is that what's coming into my algorithm? Tell me more. Tell me what else did I miss the mark on today? Mystery M444. Go, let's go. I love trolls. Come on, I'm data mining. It's starting. Let's go. More. You didn't go in enough. Mystery M444. Let's go. Come on. Let's do it. Yeah. We 360 degrees of love over here. So you showing me love, and I'm gonna show you love right back. Let's talk more. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. Come on. All right, let's see. Krishna. She hasn't she hasn't. The sun is coming from one side, you see. Okay, who is wearing a wig? Not me, although I get it. I've been getting that a lot. And it's so interesting that you're saying that because I just did like a whole spa day. Okay. And that's another thing, y'all. Like, I'm a little bit more on the glow side today. You know, my skin's a little bit more oily because I've been doing the lymphatic drainage. I mean, I did the sauna, then the steam room, then I did the hot tub, and then the swimming pool. And I did like a rotation of three. Maybe I even did it 3-3-3, maybe. You know, so I'm a little bit moisturized, a little bit more on the oily side, you know, a little bit more on that glow side. So yeah, and I'm in a hotter climate. So yeah, maybe the makeup isn't, my face ain't beat, and I don't do the powder and the setting spray and all that kind of stuff. I don't do any of the foundation or anything like that. So yeah, I am a little bit more on that glow side. So that might contribute to not being specifically on point with every degree. Look, Inanna said love ain't at a degree. Y'all angles out there, y'all be trying to keep people on point. Y'all be trying to keep people on point at a degree because you're afraid of the circle. Square the circle, square the circle, square the. That's what y'all like to say, right? Y'all Masons? Square the circle, square. But you forgot about circling the square. You forgot about that part. Which one wins? Which one outranks? It's the circle. Love is at a 360-degree approach, not an angle. We're not doing angles. So anybody out there trying to keep me on point, you're going to fail. Because my love is at 360 degrees. I'm a circle. Okay? So yeah, my edges aren't going to be all on point. But that's not my emanation. And didn't I say earlier that this conversation is sponsored by Inanna, Queen of Heaven, Earth, and the Underworld, 360 degrees? Okay? We're not doing 33, the frequency of sacrifice. We're doing the frequency of 9, which can be found more in sacred geometry. But come on, angles. Priest of Marduk, let's go. Come on, keep going. I know I'm hurting your feelings. I'm telling all your secrets. Oh, but y'all should see the lecture I just recently did on Black Diamond called Hacking the Crossroads. If you really want to get into some stuff, I named y'all. I know y'all names. I know y'all names. I do. Y'all really do try to be hiding your little priesthoods. But I be I know. I've been finding you, and I'll learn more about you. Yeah. Yeah. And also keep trolling. The more you troll, the more information I learn, the more I mine. It's all data. Let's go. Let's go. I love it. I love it. Feed me. Feed me. Okay, I'm hungry over here. I'm actually not. I'm really full. I'm actually really, really full. Which is interesting because the way my typical astrology chart is, I'm supposed to be completely drained at this time of year. I'm supposed to be balled out, just like offered up on a platter to the horned god. But no, I'm more in that Queen of Heaven kind of frequency. Okay, I'm more in that Queen of Heaven kind of frequency because I knew I needed to have a 360-degree experience in this algorithm. So that's what I've been doing. Okay, these are the codes that I'm going to be sharing today. We're going to talk more about that and what it looks like because it's not always pretty. It's not always pretty. It's not always on point. Okay, it gets messy sometimes. All right, let's see. Oh, okay. So I was back on this one. So somebody's trying to say that I'm wearing a wig, which is interesting because I was literally like, as I was at the spa, because at the spa that I was at, like you have to wear like a swim cap, and so I'm like, the swim cap doesn't fit. I was like, I had to do all this stuff with my dreadlocks to like, so I couldn't even wear just one swim cap. I had to like do like 2 swim caps and then a headband. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like, do I need to maybe I need to cut my hair. So I know I like threw that into the algorithm too, because I am gonna give my hair a bit of a trim. But no, it's all mine. It's all mine. And I even had a moment. I'm like, well, if I'm doing a 360-degree thing, is it time for me to cut my locks? And I was really thinking about it, and I'm like, no, because I don't want to. I did my hair in the fro, natural. My hair is very, very. It has its own personality. and stuff. So it would take a long time. When I went natural, it just took a long time to do my hair, just in general. I don't like weaves. Okay. I don't like those straight hair wigs that folks, I don't like. I tried the whole human hair thing and they look good on certain people, you know, but I always just felt itchy and weird because it's like, whose hair am I wearing? You know, I'm like, okay, I don't want to do that. And then I was like, well, I could do braids. And I'm like, oh, but then I have to feel the synthetic. I'm like, mm-mm. My locks kind of got me spoiled because I like having the length, you know, and a lot of y'all be trying to call me out for wearing wigs and that my hair is fake. No, it's just these are called dreadlocks. I've been growing them for about 8 years. And so my happy medium now is just trimming. So I did my first trim last year and that just felt really good because it's like, you know, you're trimming like a good year, year and a half of your hair, you know, at that point. So I just need to trim off a year of my locks. So I think that's what I'm just going to keep cutting until, you know, to keep things fresh. Okay. But thank you for sharing that, AGOJ3ZH. Okay. Hey, Rexagon. It's a sin in Christianity to not give water as well. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, Sean Kelman. Ever since you helped me realize, oh my God, hey, good to see you. Ever since you helped me realize about my cut horns, I've been researching horned archetypes. Yes, the horned one. This is the season of the horn. Let me do it. Hey, horned god shit. Yeah. Okay, because sometimes to be the queen of heaven, if you've been the sacrifice, you got to become the horned god. Oh no, she's demonic. So is Jesus. Jesus is the horn god too. Oh, you didn't know that? Oh, I think he is. Osirian cults. Just look at the cults of Osiris. It's all going back to that, y'all. Okay. Divine Fem 9. The square is the circle. Let's stop with the dual points and get back to wholeness, goddess. Woo! Divine Fem 9. Woohoo! Tell me more. Tell me more. Because here's the thing. You know, let me start diagramming. The square is more of a grid. Okay? The square is more of a grid. It can be more unforgiving. These angles can be more unforgiving. Yes, you do need to master the square, the cube. Oh, for sure. Don't hide from the square. Don't hide from the cube, or else it dominates you. But and on top of that, there is an older frequency. You know it in your. I'm sure in your records because you have Divine Fem 9. That would be more of a circle. That would end up at the frequency. That would end up more at a frequency of 9 and completion. Okay. So yeah, I definitely, in order to get at a 360-degree approach of love, oh yeah, you're gonna need to know the angles. Let me tell you how deep it is. Let me tell you how deep I go, Divine Fem 9. Let me tell you how deep my love is. My love is so, here, I'm gonna pull myself. I want y'all to hear me. So I'm gonna pull my, let me make sure that y'all can hear what I'm about to say. We're doing a sermon right now. This is how deep my love is. My love is so deep that I knew that I was caught up in womb harvesting cycles. I knew I was caught up in womb harvesting cycles. I knew that a lot of this womb harvesting was actually being perpetuated through family members, male and female, in my bloodline. I knew that there were sacrificial energies related to certain priesthoods, certain large scale sports teams or sports events. I could feel it in my body. But I got sick of blaming. I got sick of saying those priesthoods are doing this. I got sick of being the victim. And my love for myself became so deep that I chose to learn, to study, to know my oppressor, to wear their shoes and walk in their shoes. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to just blame the priesthoods anymore. I'm going to become them. I'm going to square the circle. Y'all want to talk about squaring the circle so much? Well, you know what? I'll square it right with you then. Let me learn. Let me know exactly what you know. And I put the intention out into the universe. Okay. I go way more into this on Patreon. I'm not even going to go into all the who, the what, the when, the where, the why, and how. Okay. Yep. There's a paywall for that. Yep. Sure did. Sure did say it, because the lived experience that I've gone through, it's on another level. Okay. The sort of circles I've run through, the certain sets of land that I've been in, the certain rituals that I've just happened to be a part of, there's a paywall for that. So I'm not going to give y'all everything, but I will say this. I said, you know what? I need to know what it's like to be in these priesthoods. I need to know exactly what their initiatory rites are. I need to know what it means to be a Mason. What's this 33 degree? I'm going to go through these 33 degrees. I want to know it. I can't just blame my oppressor and play victim all day. That's basic. And so I put the intention out into the cosmos that I wanted to have a 360-degree approach to this sort of experience on this planet and in this universe. And lo and behold, ended up holding the keys to a Masonic lodge in a 100% white area in West Virginia. 6 weeks I was there. And you know, my intuitive gifts are so on point that I can just go into a place and all the information gets downloaded into me. So the when I was there, the Masonic Lodge was an office. So that was my office for 6 weeks. Like I said, I didn't say this is real or not real, by the way. That's up for you to decide. But I did hold the keys to a Masonic Lodge in West Virginia for 6 weeks. The reason why this stopped being a Masonic Lodge, it stopped being a Masonic Lodge about 2 years before I got there. It stopped being a Masonic Lodge because the men in the building were so old that they all needed to use a wheelchair. So they had these stairs to get into the lodge. And they had this one real wheelchair ramp that would take them up the stairs. But they were so old that they all kind of needed to use it. So the Masonic meetings became like a big bureaucratic nightmare. Can you imagine all these older men just like waiting, and these old elderly men waiting in line to like be lifted up these stairs just to start their meeting? So they had to change locations that was more accessible for them. When the current owners of this location, when they got the building, they said that all of the windows were blacked out. It was completely all black. Looked like a womb space, actually. I mean, I was here working in this office. I mean, I'm looking at these weird 1800s images, okay, of Caucasian people in West Virginia. Like, it was haunted, you know, it was straight up haunted and stuff. But if these walls could talk, and they did. That's actually how I channeled the book, The Technomancy of Hyperdimensional Warfare, was in that Masonic Lodge, okay? And yeah, I did have to experience some pretty interesting sort of energies, okay, to hold the keys there for 6 weeks. So there was some really interesting vibes that I got into. And the Technomancy of Hyperdimensional Warfare helped me to thrive in spite of some of those challenges. So Divine Feminine 9, I'm sorry if I didn't say your name correctly. Divine Femi 9, excuse me. I know about the square. I know all about squaring the circle. And as I was channeling the way that, you know, they do things and the way they measure a lot of things, I saw inconsistencies. And I was like, you know what? I've worn your shoes. Okay. These walls did talk to me. I was able to feel all the energy of their rituals. I mean, this is an old Masonic lodge. Okay, West Virginia, 100% white area. It was a very weird aberration in the algorithm for me to be there, but I'm not cut like the rest. Okay, so I don't just say stuff. I actually make these things happen. So I don't just talk out the side of my neck with this. I know the square. It's incomplete. I wore the shoes of a Freemason. And those walls talk to me. For more information, check out my book, The Technomancy of Hyperdimensional Warfare. It was like a good, like 500 and some page book that I wrote. Look, I needed it. I was getting all that stuff channel. I was actually getting a lot of frequencies of Melchizedek during that time. Yeah, learned a lot about voodoo and how the priesthoods, a lot of these Anglican priesthoods, these Catholic priesthoods utilize the frequencies of voodoo. Okay, that whole town I was in was a whole voodoo trap while I was there. So I needed to learn about a lot of stuff. So yeah, I know about the square, but the circle's where it's at. That's what I learned. Okay, so that was a little bit of a tangent, but I just, I'm living these things. Okay. I'm not the average. When I set my intention on learning something, it happens and it's very immersive. Okay. Let's see. Let me make sure I'm not Hi Earth Angel. Okay, Jazzy Jazz McJazzerton. I like it. Jazzy Jazzerton. I like it. I love the pink and green combo you're wearing. Very beautiful. I had to get into my inner AKA. Ski. Is that what y'all say? Like any AKAs out there? Ski. I'm trolling. But I'm supposed to usually be in red and black at this time of year. Okay. But now I'm more in that Queen of Heaven vibe. So I'm feeling comfortable in the pink and the green. I'm feeling the energies of it in ways I just haven't really felt before. Okay. I'm having a 360-degree approach to love. I have a Venus conjunct Pluto in Scorpio. I don't know if anybody else has a similar placement, but y'all know this love thing, it goes deep. It goes into the underworld sometimes. And so me having a 360-degree approach means coming out of the underworld, just like Inanna did, and taking her place as Queen of Heaven and looking at all those other people who say they're Queen of Heaven, like, oh, you are? But could you cut it in the underworld the way I did and then make your way back up here? I'll wait. That being said, ski yeet. Is that what y'all do this? Like what do AKAs ski yeet? What y'all do? I gotta learn. I need to call some AKAs into my world. Y'all gotta teach me your ways. I'm catching up. I'm playing catch up. I've been working I had to rock with the Masons. I had to rock with the Beast a whole lot just to get to this Queen of Heaven energy. But now I need some Jack and Jill energy. Jack and Jill, come teach me. Come on, let's go. I need that energy. Ski. Look, I'm learning. I'm new. I'm a newbie. But I learn quick. I'm a quick study. Okay, Alexis Tutson. Be careful who you are listening to. Girl, bye. Girl, hi. Alexis Tutson. I just started getting to know you. I want to learn more. What exactly about what I said angered you? But you're probably gone already. Okay. But if you come back, I'd love to chat more. Girl, hi. Okay, Aquarium Hobbyist 4485. Damn, girl, you looking gassy. I told y'all I'm an AKA now. No one believes me. Ski, look, Taurus season, pink and green. I'm out of my red and black. I reverse polarized my Venus conjunct Pluto. It's different now. It's giving different. I just spent all day at the spa. Look, this is Taurus season. This is a different side. I don't know this side of Taurus season. I'm learning. This is different for me. Okay? I like it though. It's cute. It's cute. Okay. Okay, it's a Numinous 2506 says it's a fraternity, your oppressor, LMFAO. Okay. Ooh, I got that lion face on. Okay, so let's see. What algorithm is Aquarium Hobbyist 4485 coming from? Okay, it's giving water, obviously, but what kind of water? Can you troll me a little bit more, Aquarium Hobbyist 4485? I need more data. Troll me, like, give me some more insults. Could you please give me more insults so I can ascertain data? I know you're in the water, but where in the water are you, Aquarium Hobbyist 4485? Let me break down those numbers. Okay, so we're at 4 is 8 plus 8 is 16. That's 7 plus 5. We're at 12 again. Which priesthood you repping? What you repping? What priesthood you repping, Aquarium Hobbyist 4485? Priesthood's out. Y'all mad. Why y'all mad though? Y'all mad I'm talking about your stuff? Oh, because that was supposed to be secret, right? That was supposed to be secret, right? It's time for secrets is over. Oh, and by the way, Aquarium Hobbyist 4485. So I see that you have Aquarium in your name. I know they're saying that, it's the time of Aquarius, but that was another priesthood lie. I might go into that in more depth later. I might be, but I'm learning, I'm moving through those energies now. So the that Aquarius side might be, that water bearer side might be a little angry. I'm actually navigating the energies of 11 right now. Y'all love 11. So I don't know. Are you an Aquarius? I don't know. Tell me more. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's kiki. Oh, okay. So you are okay. So I'm sorry, I didn't read all the insults. Excuse me, Aquarium Hobbyist 4485. Let me read all of your insults. Okay. I got that lion face on. I say at the beginning, y'all. I said it several times. I said nothing I say is neither real nor not real. I never said this was real. So how am I lying? I said that several times. So how am I lying? Explain. I never said this was real or not real. Okay. Eyes lying, lips lying, body language lying. Okay. But I never said this was, I don't even want you to believe me. I said that at the beginning. If you rewind this, I said, nothing that I say is neither real nor not real. It's up for you to discern and decide. So, in order for me to be lying, I would say, look, I'm telling y'all the truth. This really happened to me. I know not to do that. I know how y'all work. I know as soon as I say something's real, then y'all come at it with the square that circle, square this. You try to square my circle. So I don't even say it's real. So how am I lying? I never said this was real. Go rewind the tape. Play it back. I already covered myself in that way. I know y'all. I wore y'all shoes. You see? I wore your fins also. Yeah, I did. So you can't accuse me of lying. You can accuse me of a lot of other things, but not lying. Not in this one. Oh, and the eyebrows are lying. Okay, okay. Yeah, aquarium hobbyist. Let's talk. Come on. Come on. Tell me more. Tell me more. Tell me about all the ways I'm a fraud and a fake. You didn't explain yourself enough. I need more. More data. Bridget Moore, LOL. Okay, I'll wait. Girl, hi. Yes, positively blissful mystic. Yeah, like she's saying girl bye. I didn't even get a chance to say hi to you yet. Like, where's the sisterhood in that? Sis. Sis, hi. Sis. Come on, sis. Don't X me out like that, sis. Sis, come on. Yes, I am manifesting Black Diamond membership. You know what? When the time is right, it'll just, don't even try to force it too much. You know what I'm saying? Like it'll just naturally flow. Okay, it'll just naturally happen. You won't even have to try hard with it. It'll just be time, you know? And I thank you for your presence in my lives and for your support in general. Greetings, beautiful souls. Yeah, let's get some more. You know what I'm getting? Usually my trolls. Uh-oh, it's because I think I know what's happening. Usually my trolls are more on the masculine. But now I'm like moving into Queen of Heaven territory. Oh, so y'all Jack and Jills might be a little threatened. Queen of the underworld. Now, Irishka gal. Now she's in Queen of Heaven. Uh-oh. Yeah, uh-oh. Uh-oh. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, uh-oh. I haven't even fully went in on the feminines yet. I've been dancing around. Priesthoods let me know, but I haven't even fully gone in on y'all yet. Mm-hmm. Y'all divine feminines out there, the ones that have been divine through sacrifice of other feminines. Yeah, y'all. Oh, y'all feeling a little threatened. Yeah, you should. You should. But tell me more, sis. Come on, sis. Let's go, sis. Ooh, okay, so here's another thing. Let me break the ice. Okay, let me break the ice because I know I can be a little adversarial sometimes. I know I can kind of just grate people's nerves sometimes. I get it. I get it. I get it. I have self awareness. I get it. You know, it's a part of just my coding. I'm supposed to kind of leave people on edge a little bit, make them a little bit uncomfortable around the norms that they've created for themselves. So I get that. But I want to break the ice a little bit too, because you get to a point where you start jabbing too much, and then your message gets lost. So let's cool it down. Let's talk about the jealousy code in the simulation. And I always usually I roll my eyes. Okay, so there's this thing happening right now, right? Where there are feminines that are getting online who are traditionally considered cuter or attractive, what have you, right? And they're talking about the pain of that them being pretty has actually been like a curse for them. But there's a code in that. It's not about the people who are, quote, hating on you or who are jealous of you. It's a code that you're wearing, it's a script that you'll need to neutralize, really. Okay. It's the Andromeda script. We went more in depth with this on Black Diamond, but if you start getting into your galactic astrology and if you have like the frequencies of Andromeda in your galactic astrology, a lot of times, like if you look at and listen to starseed channelers as you are navigating your galactic astrology, um, sometimes they just focus on all the positives, like, oh, Andromeda. Like, usually what they'll say about Andromeda and starseeds is that they're big with travel. They have a big consciousness expansion sort of energy, very like more in the divine feminine frequency. But really, we can be looking at galactic astrology more as data for certain scripts that we're in or that must be interrupted for us to thrive and evolve. And I want to discuss the Andromeda script. So a lot of people who are seeing themselves as getting hated on by feminines and stuff like that, it's just a script. Don't even focus on the people who are doing it, we'll even take a page out of Jesus's book and just say, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. They're just kind of being basic and following their script. Okay. There's going to be, if you're running a certain script in your field, this Andromeda script, which I'll discuss more of, which I've also been, it's a 911 script. It's a frequency of 9 and 11. Okay. So I've been going through the frequencies of 9. I'm moving into the frequencies of 11 right now. And so that's another reason why I'm getting some kind of adversarial energy from the feminines, which isn't usually a part of my algorithm. But I love it because it means I'm evolving. So I love that. And as I evolve, I can share this and collect this data and share it with the masses, whoever just clicks on this. And then maybe it can help them with a deeper form of understanding. So for anybody out there who is feeling triggered by me and you're a feminine, tell me exactly how you're feeling triggered. I will not censor you. Tell me everything you think is wrong with me, and I will hold space for you from a 360-degree approach to love. Because I do love you. It's just my love is 360 degrees. That's it. I do love you, though. Okay. I love everyone. No one's my adversary. Anybody who gives me any sort of info, except spammers. Spammers, I haven't. Look, I'm still growing. I don't have the space or capacity for spammers yet. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll evolve and I'll see more of your purpose. I don't right now. But trolls, I love you and I hold space for you and I value your comments just as not much, sometimes more than the positive ones right now, as I'm growing and evolving and hacking through dimensional thresholds in the simulation. So I want you to know that your hatred, your malice, your envy has a safe space here. My heart is big enough and open enough to give you the space that you need to vent. And I will uplift your comments and I will not censor you. Because through that code that you're spreading into this live right now, I grow, I thrive, I blossom. And it's all fertilizer for me to grow further, deeper, wider, and to share my message and to fertilize and pollinate larger areas. So know that from my heart to yours, you have a safe space here. Okay? But let's not get in our feelings too much about this because when you can feel persecuted, especially by the feminine, and you're a feminine and you're really connected with your goddess, and you feel as though you're getting persecuted for being connected with your divine feminine nature, it hits different. When a masculine dogs you out, it's different. Okay, but when it's like someone that looks like you, that is supposed y'all supposed to be cis, it kind of like blindsides you. So it can those were the deepest wounds for me to heal, actually. It wasn't what any man said to me, the way any man treated me, dogged me out, insulted me. The ones that took longer for me to heal, it was the sidestepping and I thought we were cis, I thought we were divine feminine, we were in the same moon circles, we went to the retreats together, and boom, oh, but you were the one who was casting them curses, but you were the one who was feeding me to the wolves this whole time, smiling in my face, calling me cis. That hurt. That was harder. That took longer. This is the power of the feminine, though. Okay? That this is the power of the feminine. This is why the feminine energy, this is when you start knowing what really rules things. Even if it looks like it's patriarchy, you get underneath it, it's matriarchy. That's the power of the feminine. Okay? We're going to be getting more into that. But let's start with something simple. Let's talk about the Andromeda script. So in the mythology, Andromeda is this beautiful. Well, first of all, let's break down the etymology of Andromeda. Andromeda means female ruler. It means female ruler. The way the story goes is that Andromeda was so beautiful that she had a mom that would just brag on her. Oh, my daughter's this. My daughter's the most beautiful this. Oh, this and that. My daughter's the best. That was problematic for the mom to do too. Okay. I don't know if anybody's had a mom or like a feminine, like matriarchal presence in their life where they praise them, but almost to like put them on this pedestal that felt almost like a sacrifice. It wasn't really them praising you for you. It was them praising you and uplifting you so they would feel better. I don't know if anybody has had that sort of story or that sort of legacy with the matriarchy. Okay, so, but nonetheless, Andromeda's mom was talking about how bomb Andromeda was, how she was the best looking, and this and that. And the Nereids, they were called the Nereids. I wonder if that aquarium, what's your name? Aquarium hobbyist 4485. Are you a Nereid? I wonder. Anyways, the Nereids, they're water spirits. They're a form of a siren, not quite a siren, but for all intents and purposes, we'll call them a siren. The Naries, they heard that. They were like, they got so jealous. They're like, ugh. Oh, you think she's so cute? Oh, you think you're so cute, Andromeda? Female ruler? We'll show you cute. You know what? I'm going to take your ass to the bottom of the sea and chain you there. That's how cute you are. Let's see how cute you are when you're chained at the bottom of the sea. And we're going to sacrifice you, Andromeda. We're going to sacrifice you to a sea monster named Cetus. Oh, you think you're so cute? We'll see how cute you are when you're getting sacrificed by Cetus. You see, it's as above, so below. So in the upper realms or in the middle world with the tree system, you have the green man frequency, which we discussed earlier. The green man who sometimes shows up as the horned god, who might be sacrificing the priestess on behalf of certain priestly lineages, okay? And that's how fertility emerges. But then you go deeper, you go into other realms, you go below, you go into the seas. And then you get into the frequencies of maritime law. People have been talking about this Epstein files stuff. But y'all give Jeffrey Epstein too much of a hard time. Yeah, I said it. I'll say it about Diddy too. You're giving them too much of a hard time. They're products of exactly of the program that they're designed to fulfill. They're working perfectly, y'all. The system, when you start really getting into these astrological mythologies, they set up systems for sacrifice in all of these mythologies. They set up systems for the sacrifice of the feminine, for the exploitation of the womb, time and time again. The greatest planet out there that y'all talk about all the time, y'all Western astrologers, who do y'all love to talk about? Jupiter. Jupiter this, Jupiter that. Jupiter's the gas giant. Jupiter's the god of abundance. Jupiter's a rapist. Let's talk about that. Jupiter, Zeus, he's a rapist. Time and time again, I'm poring over these mythologies. He can't keep his hands off the goddess. He forces himself onto the goddess time and time again. And y'all uplift Jupiter. Y'all astrologers out there, oh, where's my Jupiter? Oh, my Jupiter, is it afflicted? It was always afflicted. If you're a divine feminine, it was always afflicted. What are you talking about? See, this is the normalization of sacrifice of the feminine in this frequency, and it's perpetuated not by one gender alone. It's a system. So when we talk about the Epstein's files, he's just being Jupiter. I was looking into his frequencies. When you look into Andromeda, you also find the frequencies of Olokun there, who is known as being the underwater deity of extreme wealth, who's neither masculine nor feminine. Some people will try to pass Olokun off as being a masculine. Olokun's not a masculine. It's neither this nor that. It's a threshold deity. But as I was looking into the energies of, the Caribbean in general, the Epstein files, I kept getting Olokun. I'm like, what's this Olokun stuff? Well, I mean, it's the Andromeda frequency. There was a time on this planet where things were more ruled by the feminine, by the matriarch, feminine ruler, female ruler, Andromeda. And a lot of things went down to sacrifice that energy and build more of a patriarchal frequency or domination hive mind on top of the feminine. It's Sophia in her fall. Okay, it's Inanna in the underworld. Anybody who's been felt like they've been sacrificed or chained to the sea would need to overcome those scripts. And that means you don't just overcome patriarchy, because who brought Andromeda down? Who chained her ass to the bottom of the sea? The feminine did. The Nereids did. Y'all hate her asses. Y'all did it. It was you, sis. The green-eyed monster is what they call jealousy. Why do you think they call jealousy the green-eyed monster? Now we're getting into the realm of the Fae. So if in the underwater realms, the accomplices to the sacrifice were the Nereids, the feminine water spirits, who were y'all couldn't hear a girl get so much praise. Now, could you? It was too much for you. You had to humble her, didn't you? Chain her to the bottom of the sea. Y'all hating water spirits out there. Aquarium, what's your name? Aquarium Hobbyist 4485. Am I striking a nerve with you if you're still on? Might be you. Mm-hmm. The green-eyed monster. Why do they call it the green-eyed monster? Well, as above, so below. If Andromeda's chained to the bottom of the sea in the waters, what's happening in those tree systems or root systems is like a green man sort of sacrificial energy. And that's when you find the energy of the fairies. They want to talk about how fairies are so cute and magical and will grant your wishes and your greatest desires. That is an aspect of the fairies. It's really great to be on the other side with the fairies. It took me a long time. I had a big problem with y'all for a while. Hmm. Fairies aren't always feminine, too. You get into more of a masculine queer frequency with the fairies as well. That's a big one. Fairies rule fate. The green man would be the green-eyed monster, but then there's also an energy of the green fairies related to that too, and them deciding who gets sacrificed and who doesn't. They do a really they show this a lot on Once Upon a Time with the frequencies of how the fairies work with royalty. The fairies are on your side if you're on the side of establishment, if you've made it through certain dimensional thresholds and gotten initiated into certain frequencies. Yeah, then you have a fairy godmother. Otherwise, it ain't so cute. Green-eyed monster. Jealousy. It's written into some people's script. If you've been having issues specifically related to the feminine and jealousy, it's just a script that you're in. Don't spend your time being in your feelings about who's hating on you. I know it can hurt, but this is a structural issue. They're just a part of a certain code. Okay. It's the Andromeda code. The more you sometimes are in your power, some people can't handle that. Like sometimes the algorithm will make it so that there are beings that will chain you to the bottom of the sea, or that will serve as more of a green-eyed monster in your realm. Okay. Because, sometimes your energy is a little bit more, if you're able to fatten somebody up with so much self-worth, right? And they're the goddess and they're in their feminine power and glory and they're a female ruler. And if you could just cut at them and drag them down and chain them to the bottom of the sea, from an energy harvesting standpoint, you're feeding a lot more than if you were to chain somebody to the bottom of the sea who didn't see themselves that worthy anyway. They didn't really think much of themselves anyway. It's not as big of a feed. The harvest isn't as great. So sometimes you really want to go for those ones that think a lot of themselves. Because if you can, yeah, keep on. You think you're so great? You think you're so beautiful? You think you're so powerful? I'll show you. That's the tastier hunt. That's the tastier hunt. It's an Andromeda code though. You would want to interrupt that script. You need to go through the frequencies and the dimensions of 9 and 11 to do that. Navigating that right now. We're in 11 right now, actually. We're in 11 right now. So it's just something to think about. Okay. Let's see what else we got going. Dang, I was going to do a whole, I don't know if I'm still going to try to do my TV example for what we're talking about. We went in a whole other direction, but I love where we're going. I'm feeling great about this. I'm letting a lot off my chest right now, actually. Thank y'all. Thank you for everybody who's been contributing to this conversation. You are appreciated. Okay, let's see what we got. Okay, Jazz McJazzerton, I love the way you handled that. It gave me joy. It gave me joy too. Okay, 360 degrees of love. Okay, I love how self-empowered you are. It's very inspiring as someone coming out of people pleasing. Yes, look, that was my script. Worrying about what everyone else thought. Always, having to take care of everyone else before I took care of myself. I was a very different person. I was on the opposite end of the polarity. Now I'm in my villain era because, if you play the script of nice girl too much, you can't actually experience the full, like a fuller version of love. You can't be in your fullness because you don't, if you're just always experiencing love from a state of sacrifice and sacrificing yourself and giving of yourself to the point of depletion, then you don't know what love is. I had to be really honest with myself about that. I thought I was very loving. I thought that me being codependent, I thought that me being the great friend. Oh, I was the great friend. Okay. I don't really, my life is very different now, but there was a time when I was always surrounded by people. I was always the shoulder you could cry on, the one you could depend on. And those were the ne'er reads in my life, though. Plot twist. They were the nereids in my life. And it hurt. It hurt so much. It took me a really, really long time but the frequency of this 360 degrees of love really retrieved aspects of myself and made me a lot stronger. And also, when I came to more of a 360-degree experience and I went back to those same betrayals, I was able to not see these betrayals as a state of victimhood. They were my greatest learnings. I learned the biggest secrets from these same people who maybe they look like they betrayed me on some realm or dimension, but really they were refining me. They were helping me to see 300 degrees, 360 degrees of love. It's really easy to say you're a loving person if everything's going well in your life. It's really easy to say you love yourself and you like yourself when everybody's affirming you in your world. I've had that experience too, where everybody was affirming me, okay, and all in my energy and complimenting me and all that stuff. And then on the other side of things, it was backstabbers. They smile in your face all the time. What is it? All the time they want to take your place. Backstabbers. Backstabbers. Is that love though? No, that's a show. That wasn't love. I had to see beyond that illusion, be in my feelings, get hurt about it, and then I had to, when all of the glory was out and it was just me versus me, I had to love myself from that perspective. I had to like myself from that perspective when there was no one affirming me. When there was no one smile up in my face, all the time they want to take my place. Backstabbers, backstabbers. No, so I had to, that's real love. They were actually, and so when you look at things from more of a 360-degree approach, those nereids in your life are teaching you an aspect of loving yourself and loving them. Because I had to go, and same thing with the karmic matriarchal energies. I experienced that. What do you do when some of the being who gave you life is cutting you down the most, is your biggest op, or so it seems? That could really, really, really shake your self-confidence. If the person who gave you life is the one who's hating on you, okay, who's working behind the scenes to make sure you don't evolve, you could be a victim in that. Or what I had to do is, you know what, I'm my own cosmic mother. I need to move past whatever I think motherhood looks like in a more transactional sort of way in the simulation. I need to find and activate the cosmic mother within myself. That's the 360 degrees of love. So really, I could go at it from two ways. I could say, oh yeah, I had a karmic mom who was hating on me and who was my op and da 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 da. Da. I've been through that. But then I had to come through 360 degrees about it, because you get to a point, if you are transcending a lot of these scripts in the simulation, where you need to rebirth yourself. You need to give birth to yourself and access the cosmic mother in yourself. So in a certain way, when you think about it like that, a karmic mother needs to make you not feel safe so that you move towards the cosmic mother within yourself. If you're too, buddy buddy with your simulation mom, it's less likely that you'll access the cosmic mother within yourself, which is, I know I'm here to have more of a 360-degree approach. So really, I had to look at it from another way. Wow. My mother was training me. My mother was training me to love myself so completely that I would transcend my simulation mother. That's love. That's another degree of love. That's more scorpionic, sure, but it's actually more real for me, for the journey that I'm on, okay? So I had to come to a 360-degree approach with the karmic mother as well. This is when you start looking at your biggest ops and they're your teachers. Yeah, it's great when you love yourself and everything's going right, but what if everybody who you trusted turns on you? Now what? That's when the real journey begins. So I've seen both sides of it. Okay. Okay, let's see. Creatress says, your Patreon is so awakening. I just want to say gratitude. Thank you. Yes, shouts out to the Patreon members. You know, this past week was on and popping with Black Diamond. I was talking with y'all like every day last week, okay? And from all different walks of life, y'all are beautiful. And I also I want to shout out all of Patreon supporters, the Gratitude Tier, Holographic Rose, Galactic Goddess, Genetic Path Cutter, Black Diamond, Tabula Rasa. These are different frequencies, you know. If you peruse the Patreon tiers, you know, and one gravitates more than the other, go towards that because they are very specific frequencies. And I just want to thank you for sharing in this journey and helping me to create a space to grow and evolve personally and on a collective level as well. So I just want to, right back at you, Creatress. Yes, Kayla Woodfin says, as long as you stand in your truth. Yes. And then also what truth. Yeah, truth. You know, truth changes depending upon this perspective that you're looking at it. Because at one point it was my truth that I had a karmic mother that was doing everything she could to stop my evolution. And then another truth that I came to in more of a 360-degree approach was that I had a birth mother that made it so that I was so uncomfortable in a certain dimensional bandwidth that I would have no choice but to outgrow it and expand and evolve. The 360 degrees of love. Sometimes your truth changes on this journey too. You know, sometimes if you're playing more of the hero side, okay, if you're more in that hero side, chosen one sort of frequency, then yeah, you have a karmic mother, you have karmic family that are blocking you at every turn. And the more I got into my inner villain, you know, I wore the shoes of the villain more. So then I looked at the villains in my life and I was like, well, let me look at them from another perspective now. Oh, if I look at it from this perspective, they're helping me. They're helping me grow. They're moving me out of my comfort zone. Yeah, it doesn't feel as good, but it's helping me grow way more than just affirming me time and time again, actually. So, you know, truth can also be objective and it can change depending upon how you look at it. Thank you, Bridget Moore. I'm just stopping by to show some love, sister. Yes, and you know, for Bridget, I want to talk about Bridget and bridges because that's been coming up for me. You know, in one of the calls on Black Diamond, I was sharing with in a consultation that there is I've been getting a lot of channelings from the mineral realms. Okay, so I'm writing about that in a book I'm working on now. But if you go beneath the tectonic plates of Earth, you'll get to a frequency of a mineral called bridgematite. Bridgematite. This is transcending the grid systems. You have to go really, really, really deep into the Earth's inner crust to get to this frequency. But it has me thinking a lot about the goddesses like Maman Brigitte or Bridget, and they have bridge in their names. And if we think about Maman Brigitte, her counterpart is Baron Samedi, who stands at the crossroads. Or the X. He's more of an X frequency, Baron Samedi. And his counterpart, it's no accident that she is Maman Brigitte. She's a bridge. There's a bridge frequency. We're building bridges here. We stop seeing so much about how we're different, even if we get on each other's nerves, even if we irk each other. You know, everything can be utilized as a bridge for our evolution, not just the feel good stuff. This is the part of the 360 degrees of love. But yeah, bridgematite. Look up that mineral known as bridgematite. Okay. And if you're looking to cross certain thresholds in your world and have deeper sense of understanding, it's a good mineral to work with outside of the grid system of the way they show us love is. Okay. Yeah, let's see them fakers handle the underworld and come back up like we have. Looks to me like they are struggling a bit. You know, it's just, and I don't want to. Earlier, I was in my troll. I like trolls. Trolls are helpful. So yeah, you know, I mean, I was in my troll. I started picking on the AKAs. I'm an AKA too now, though. It's just different. Okay, I just got there a different way. Let me just say that. I got it out the mud. Some of y'all were born into this, the bloodline, all that. Mm-mm, not I. Mm-mm. I'm an aberration. I'm a statistical anomaly. I'm in realms where I was not supposed to be in. I was not supposed to be knowing this stuff. Okay. But I'm a bridge. All right. And as I learn, look, I'm building a bridge as I go. We ain't keeping this secret. Nope. Mm-mm. And I don't have any covenants or bindings to anything because I had to get this out the mud. All right. So, yeah, I'm building a bridge as I get this information. So, yeah, make way, Queens of Heaven. Make way. More of us are coming. More of us are coming. But there's enough for all of us. That's the thing. The illusion is that, you know, for some to be on top, others got to be sacrificed. And I know that's how y'all got used to things being queens of heaven, queens of the stars. You know, you got real caught up in that. You felt real special, but that's not that's not how it has to be, and it's not going to be like that anymore. So if you have a problem with that, start working on your inner hierarchy, or else you're going to be really uncomfortable, and you're going to get outranked because you didn't dissolve the hierarchy within yourself. So then you just might be in a state of fall. So watch out for that. But you know, just remember, queens of heaven. Remember, y'all queen of heaven, right? Y'all should know this better than anyone else. There's enough for everyone. The illusion was the scarcity and having to step on people in order for you to thrive. That was an illusion. Let it go, or else it's going to be a real hard time for you. Okay? Because, you know, when you have beings who've mastered many different dimensional thresholds, can hold their own in the underworld and in heaven and in earth and everywhere in between, and you get in your feelings about that, you're going to be outranked. So just be careful. It's time to start dissolving the inner hierarchy now. Otherwise, it's going to be a hard time for you. Okay? Okay, sis? Sis? Come on, sis. There's enough for everyone. Ski. There's enough for everyone. You didn't need all that. We don't need all that stuff. We don't need all the hand gestures and all the little secret stuff. No, we don't need to fight for men or any. Nope. I'm not trying to have your man. No, don't worry about it. Don't worry. It's okay. You don't have to be in scarcity. You can be queen. You know, the true fullness is knowing that you can't be taken off of any throne. If you embody the circle, if you can embody that 360 degrees, you're going to have to get rid of the green-eyed monster, though. Okay, fairies, okay, Nereids, all right? It's not in style anymore. We're not doing it like that anymore, okay? You can stay queen of heaven as long as you don't try it with me, though. Just don't try it with us. We've been in the underworld. We know about that realm too. Okay, so if you want to keep hierarchy going, you're outranked. If you can dissolve the inner hierarchy, we can be in our own flow. Up to you. Up to you and your consciousness, okay? Kayla Woodfin said, yeah, very kind. Oh, somebody redacted. Moonshine 8811 retracted a message. Wait, I kind of want to see that. Let's see, 8811. What do we got there? So, of course, we got the moon with that. I've been definitely learning about the secrets of the moon. I had to. To be queen of heaven, you got to be on that moon time. For sure. Okay, moonshine 8811. What numbers we got? So 88, that's 16. So we're at 7 plus 11. Ooh, 711. Dun, 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 dun. What's that? That Beyonce song 711. That was one of my favorite Beyonce songs. Wait on, phone up in your hand. Okay, anyways, 711 9. Okay, so we're at a 9. There's another 9 frequency there. Okay, moonshine 9. That's what I'm going to say. Okay, but I wanted to know what you said. I wonder what you said. Oh, well, you can say it again. I have space. I have spaciousness. I'm in my fullness. I can handle it. Okay, dark crypto. Okay, emojis. Toto Boy 77. Satan approved of you. Sure did. Sure did. Yep. For sure. I'll take it. I'll take it. Oh, okay, you're back, moonshine. Okay. I have Lilith in the first house. Yep, that was my old placement. Yep. My bare presence seems to trigger people. Mhm. Yep. So we're going to get into those Lilith frequencies because I do want to get to my TV example. I'm going to try to make it work because it's kind of a lengthy one, but you know, we can make it happen. I might need to charge my phone and readjust a bit, you know. Um, Here's something I'll say about Lilith, okay? Because Lilith, that's the frequency of the feminine in her fall, okay? But she also is the base of the tree that holds everything together. So Lilith is annoying in that way because people want to sacrifice, like it's a very sacrificial energy. It's like just dump all the BS on Lilith, you know, just dump everything on her. But at the same time, we need her. So now she's really annoying because like we don't like that bitch, but we do need her though. So now the hate's just double, you know, she's kind of holding it all down. And a lot of times the Lilith frequency has a memory, a very long memory of times before the more recent iteration of the simulation. So she's kind of going to fact check how things are. But tap into a frequency. I've been, you know, as I've been doing a lot of work with the mineral realms, there's a frequency known as the Lilosphere in the Earth's crust, which I believe is why they call Lilith and why she's at the base of the tree. She's of the ley line frequency. She's of the grid system. So if you can, you know, people who are really close to that energy can really understand the mechanics of the grid system, and you are getting to that bridge sort of energy. And so you sometimes are going to be that first line of spiritual attack. Like the spiritual attack is going to come through you first, you know. You're going to, like somebody just recently said, oh, Toto Boy 77. Hey, 7, that's another priesthood frequency. I get you, Toto. Toto Boy, you know that song Africa by that band called Toto? To keep me away from you. There's nothing that 100 men or more could ever do. I miss the waves down in Africa. That's for you, Toto Boy 77. That's my song. I love that song, Africa by Toto. Okay. I know because I'm melanated, I'm supposed to be offended because, you know, but I love that song. That's my, when I was in South Africa, I was like playing that song. I'm like, I know that this, I should be playing maybe other music, more authentic music, but that was my jam. When I was on safari, I was playing Toto, Africa. Okay, you get in my book, Toto Boy 77. You remind me of one of my favorite songs. Okay, so yeah, Moonshine 8811. You have like intel that annoys people. You know what I mean? So you remember a time from before, okay? But you should work on see what happens when you reverse polarize your Lilith and just see where it lands then, okay? And start moving towards that frequency as well. Because Lilith in the first house, yeah, that's a hard one because it's like bam, just right there, bam, like first thing you see. You love reading the Inanna book. Thank you, thank you. Okay, Kaylon Matthews. Seriously, who did your eyebrows? Oh, my makeup artist that just, I mean, obviously I did them, right? If you're asking who did my eyebrows. So what are you really asking, Kaylon? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. What's going on, Kaylon? Tell me more. Can you go more into it? See if there's another way that I'm off point, okay? If I'm off a certain degree, do you want to share more? Let's go. Let's go deeper. Let's go deeper because your comment is like a little stale. Like, if you want to be a little bit funnier, I'm leaving space for you to troll harder because of all the trolly comments I've gotten so far, yeah, basic. You can go better though. Can you do better? Can you do better? I have a feeling you troll other pages, so you should be good at this. I want you, Kaylon Matthews, to rise to your potential. Is this the best you can do? Seriously, who did that comment? Who made that comment, Kaylon Matthews? Can you do better? Let's try again. I'm gonna hold space for you. Whatever you say, I'll read it out to the collective, okay? Come on. Do better. Troll harder. Let's go. Okay, I'm the troll coach right now. I see more potential in your trolling, Kaylon. Come on. Let's go. Lift them troll weights. Let's go. Come on. Troll gym. You're looking a little flabby over there with your trolling. Let's go harder. Do better. Yeah, basic. Okay, Katoris. Katoris 9027, same moonshine. Okay, Sophia Lush. Ain't keeping the secret. Sending love. Thank you, Sophia. The codes are back. Hello, her hero star. Okay, Moonshine said, I said Scorpio energy seems to be very triggering, but in a good way. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Like in a good way, though, in a good way, because really the Scorpio energy is like more of a authentic form of the scales of justice. I mentioned before that the Libra scales of justice was an overlay from the times of Babylon. Okay. The Libra scales of justice was an overlay. Okay. So they added that because they knew the time that the cosmic cycle, they knew that the cosmic cycle would shift. Okay. A lot of these, we'll just call them the special people, the people who want to feel special. So they want to keep everyone out. So that they can like look down on everyone, you know. It's kind of like first class. You know how like if you had to go to your coach seat on first class and like, like the first class people are gonna like the coach people. Like some people really get off on that. They like it. So those beings that just really get a hard on for hierarchy. That's a shirt actually, hard on for hierarchy. Y'all should make a shirt. Yeah, y'all should make a shirt about that. But for those people, they really got scared of this time of a shift in the cosmic cycles. So they did a lot to confuse the collective so that people wouldn't step into their power and naturally adjust to the cosmic cycle. I mentioned it in another live a few weeks ago. It's kind of like Juneteenth. They talk about the story of American chattel slavery, whether or not that's fully the way it went down. As a former as an African American, not former, as somebody who has a degree in African American studies from an elite institution and who studied African American studies, or sorry, who's taught African American studies. So not only majored in it, taught it, literally went to the African continent, taught African American studies there. Okay, like in many different ways. I've learned that the transatlantic slave trade, a lot of that was some BS. I have nothing to gain by saying that. I leave money on the table as somebody who used to do keynotes for equity and social justice. That's not on my career path anymore because I've ostracized myself from that community by sharing this. In my last keynote, I shared it actually. So yeah, I don't have anything to gain by saying this. Okay, I'm somebody who invested thousands of dollars and thousands of hours into saying the exact opposite. But American chattel slavery is not what they taught us. That being said, let's just say, for shits and giggles, that it's exactly how it happened. So there's this moment called Juneteenth that happened after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. And basically, it took several years for certain slaves or enslaved people to realize that they didn't have to be slaves anymore. Okay. Because the slave masters, the ones who actually had the information, they withheld it. They're like, I'm not going to just volunteer this information to them. If they can't read and if they can't understand that the dynamics have shifted, that's on them. They're illiterate anyways. Let them keep working for me as long as possible. So we're in that kind of interesting paradigm right now with the cosmic cycle. Is a lot of us, we're free. The shift is happening. It will happen very natural. It'll happen very naturally. Okay, if you were on more of a bottom end of the polarity, and if you move from a state of neutrality, not from a state of vindictiveness, but just knowing who you are and knowing what cosmic time it is, roles will reverse very effortlessly on your part, because you are moving with the cosmos with this. You have to decide, though, that you're not going to be chained at the bottom of the sea anymore. You need to decide that you're not going to be a sacrifice anymore. If you've been in those scripts, you've been in a state of depletion, you've been in a state of imbalance. Okay, so you would need to get to neutral, you would now need to be in your fullness. You would now need to be more of Queen of Heaven sort of energy. Okay, and rest in that and know that this is for you. Okay, and anybody who would try to say otherwise, that's just them being threatened by the cosmic time cycles. Okay, so many people have done so many tricks to stay on top and to be the winner of things because they're in a state of forgetfulness. They don't understand the 360 degrees of learning. Okay, and that you trying to always be on top or always be better than somebody is actually doing you a disservice, actually. So all that to say, they created this overlay of this of the claws of the scorpion, and they put the scales of Libra on top of it, and they made it seem like justice, quote unquote, which is that's all of those words, whether it's justice or equity, those are all overlays. It'll always come at an imbalance. It'll always, for the ones who created those sorts of terms, it'll always go in their favor. They've created a whole system around it. Okay. That's the scales of Libra, but it's only the overlay. If you take off the overlay, it is Zubid and El Ganubi, Zubid and El Shamali, which are the claws of the scorpion. That's really what time it is. Okay. So we've been, if we want to get a little bit more galactic with it, we've been in a time of Orion, the hunter. Hunter always needs to have hierarchy. Hunter needs to have their special weapons and special tools to dominate natural forces. A hunter is nothing without the weapons that they have, right? It's harder for somebody who identifies as being a hunter to hunt with their bare hands. They've gotten so used to the tools that they've created to stay on top. But you know what outranks the hunter according to the cosmic timeline and cosmic cycles? It is the scorpion. The scorpion outranks the hunter. The hunter or Orion are scared shitless of the scorpion, and the scorpion is more of a feminine frequency. If you look at the insect realms, which is what a lot of our structures are modeled after, is the insect realms. It's usually the feminine that outranks. Okay, so in a time where it seems like patriarchy is winning, where it seems like the patriarch is dominant, they are scared shitless of the scorpion. So scared they overlaid a little bit of like some scales of Libra to keep the feminine contained with Ma'at. Ma'at is an overlay. You take off Ma'at, it's the claws. The claws of the scorpion are out. The stinger is out. The scorpion outranks the hunter. You notice the scorpion don't need no weapons either. The scorpion has everything that it needs to dominate. Doesn't need an extra little arrow. Doesn't need their dogs hunting. No, it's just me. Let's go. The hunter is afraid of the scorpion. Okay, that's what time it is. It's scorpion time. That's the real time. That's why they have all of this negative energy about insects too. Okay, especially if you start looking into certain things around UFOs or like different aliens and stuff like that. Nobody really, the insects are the bad guys, but they also outrank a lot of the other extraterrestrials and interdimensionals that they talk about. Might be time to look more at that insect thing. They don't always feel the most comforting, and that's not their job or their role. But from a hierarchical standpoint, if you are in energy harvesting scripts, it benefits you to align more with the insect frequency because they easily outrank a lot of the frequencies that are energy harvesting you. And cosmically, that's what time we're in, actually. That's why there's a lot of demonization scripts about it. Okay. It's the feminine in her fullness, knowing who she is and knowing what her rank is, you know? All right, let's see what we got. What we got. Okay, not a bot. During Beltane, I never initiated into so many things so quickly in my memory. Yeah, it's all the records are, they're just, the floodgates are open. If you want to know what's been hidden, you just set that intention and it happens. You make it so. You said you went to Sirius and started star walking, initiated into Inanna's 7 gates, wore the high priest archetype of the Pleiadian high priest and the Pleiadian intelligence. Okay, 7's the start. You start with the 7-pointed star. Don't stop at 7 because that's still priesthood. Go to 8. 8 is when you get into the 8th dimensional stargate. And that's when karma stops. If you can pass through that frequency of 8, holding the space of neutrality, none of those karmic scripts or like, am I worthy or anything, none of that stuff that the priesthood overlaid onto a lot of things or was overlaid through the frequency of Orion, none of that can touch you. So now it's time to get super into your neutrality and also to embody the villain from a state of neutrality. Okay, because the 8th dimensional Stargate is no joke. Orion is no joke. They're going to give you the biggest fight. Guns will be out, weapons will be out. But, that just shows that they're overcompensating. You got to do all that. You really got to do all that. You got to have all those weapons, all those little gadgets to stop me. You're already showing that you're inferior when you do that. Orion, hunters, Osirian cults, Betelgeuse, all y'all. So anyways, hold the frequency of 8, okay, to pass through that frequency where you are neutral. Because when you're neutral, anything that would try to stop you from crossing the threshold immediately ricochets as you hold that state of neutrality through the portal of 8. Okay. Yeah, go to 8. Go to 8. Okay, meme wool. Y'all too grown to be coding people by signs. I'm not coding anyone by signs. Did I code somebody by a sign? Oh, okay. Maybe when I said Aquarius, but I'm talking more about cosmic cycles, not about, Aquariuses are like this. They are lying to us and saying that we're in the age of the Aquarius and the age of the water bearer. It's more of a scorpionic frequency that we're moving into. That's scarier for the beings who are quote unquote in power. I put that in quotation marks. That's scarier for the people who are in power because they are immediately outranked. If it's the age of the water bearer, which is kind of more of a maritime law sort of frequency, I don't want to say artificial intelligence, but just control, let's just say control through the algorithm. Beings who are more set on that will say we're in the age of Aquarius, but it's actually more of a frequency of quote Libra, but not the overlay of Libra. It's more of the Scorpion. Okay. It's more of that Scorpion thing. Because, look at it. If you think about a lot of our major ancient sites that at least that they tell us about, because we know there's tons of ancient sites that they will not share with us, right? They'll try to hide them. They'll try to say they don't exist. They'll make them really inaccessible to get to. So I'm not talking about those ancient sites, but the ancient sites that they throw in our faces, where are they aspecting? Orion. So that shows you, okay, the power structure wants us to look towards Orion. The power structure is getting something out of the frequency of Orion. But if you start doing the study of the cosmic cycle and what outranks Orion naturally, cosmically, it is the scorpion. It ain't no water bearer. Okay. That's just a continuation of Orion. And we're now, it's not to even demonize Orion, because in order to cross certain dimensional thresholds, you will need to cross through Orion, which means you'll need to become that frequency. You'll need to become the hunter. You'll need to become the predator. You'll need to be in your villain era, because they're going to come with you hard. They're going to come for you hard. So you need to meet them at that exact same frequency from a state of neutrality. And if you can stay neutral and you focus on what actual cosmic time it is, not what the overlay is, they're toast. They're roadkill, okay? But if you look at the cosmic timing of things, really what outranks Orion and what surpasses Orion cosmically is more of the scorpion, okay? Not the water bearer, like they're trying to tell us. So we can't just, a lot of times we hear things enough repeated in our face, and it just becomes, oh yeah, that's what it is. But we also want to question everything, because who's giving us the information? That's important to note as well. So meme wool, I get what you're saying about not coding people based upon astrological signs. And this is kind of more of a cosmic conversation, not like based on personality. Okay. Because if we can follow cosmic cycles and align with that frequency, it actually puts us more in our power. Okay. Than nitpicking over what sign people are. So I get what you're saying. Okay, Notabot says, and more hello, and that message, I really appreciate it. Yes, I believe Gemini or Cancer is the scorpion tail in or stinger. Yeah, I'm still decoding Cancer. There's more to learn about Cancer. I'm still in that process currently. Okay, well, I have a choice, because I'm going to quickly share. I want to give y'all a media example on the 360 degrees of love, so that if you're interested in exploring this topic, because it's really expansive and it calls on us to operate from a state of fullness, even in the face of an adversary, which can, depending upon the day it is, some days or sometimes when I'm in my, depending on where I'm at, it's easier to do than others. It's like working out though. The more you can have at it and focus on a state of neutrality, focusing things on more of a state of neutrality, knowing that if something is adversarial to you in one way, it could be equally as beneficial to you in another way. Okay. And if you can like keep practicing neutrality and getting out of binary code, it'll help you to hold this frequency of the 360 degrees of love, because you get to a point where your biggest adversaries are giving you the most data and supporting you with where your blind spots are sometimes. So listening to them, okay, well, what's being said behind what's being said behind the insult? What's the code with that? When you start getting to the frequency of 8, that's imperative to do. Otherwise, it'll just feel like you're being attacked all the time. Because it's a very strong polarity. They refer to it as the 8th sphere. You can look into the 8th sphere, and they talk about how this is the area of the devil. They talk about how this is the demonic energy. This is the area when you get into like extreme devilish AI and stuff like that. But that's also beings who want to keep you away from the frequency of 8, because there's a huge power connected to it. Okay, so I'm going to give y'all a media example. We're going to discuss a show that I just recently watched. I didn't finish the whole thing, but it's called Grimm. I don't know if y'all have heard of the show Grimm. It came out around 2011. Basically, it's based on the concept of the book series or the story series known as the Brothers Grimm. And the Brothers Grimm created a lot of Grimm fairy tales. Fairies, there we go, fairies. Fairies are not cute all the time. A lot of times they are, depending upon what side of the polarity you're on, they can also be your worst nightmare sometimes. Fairy tales. And this is why sometimes fairy tales are very morbid and very graphic, okay? So the Brothers Grimm, one of the most famous fairy tales that they created was the Little Red Riding Hood. Okay, Little Red Riding Hood is one of those two, which is actually a really grim tale of the the predatory nature of a child being alone by herself in the woods, and she's wearing red, which is a very like sacrificial color. So real quick, okay. So by the way, if you ever want to watch this show, Grimm, just know that this I'm about to spoil. I'm not going to tell. I can't even possibly get into all of the episodes because I mean it's one of those shows that has like 22 episodes per season, and there's like 5 seasons. Okay, so there's tons of the content there. The writing's pretty good. They're really good at like mixing in a lot of spiritual mythology into their storylines, so you can learn a lot about spiritual mythology. I learned a lot about herbs too, watching that show. It's focused a lot on the Germanic sort of frequencies as well. They mentioned a lot about the, I think they call it the Black Forest in Germany. But yeah, a lot of German, Austrian sort of frequencies, and they go into a lot of decoding. I actually think this show is an allegory for what happens when somebody realizes that there are other dimensions. Like they start off thinking that they're just a human and that there's just the 3D, and that they have their work, they have stuff they do at home, they go out, they have their girlfriend, all the general things, and then they wake up into another world. And what happens to their world around them as they do it. I think it's an allegory for that. So basically, the main character of the show, his name is Nick, and he's a cop. Okay, so that's another threshold frequency. You get to a point where um, you want to kind of criticize cops or agents. But when you're crossing certain dimensional thresholds, it does not benefit you to do that. There's actually a lot of initiated frequencies with cops you want to study and look into more, like cops, detectives. But I will say, I saw this show Grimm on my feed at one point, and I thought about watching it, and I think I might have even like maybe watched like the half of the first episode, but it was too grim for me, because it is, it talks a lot about death. It talks a lot about the predatory nature, the animalistic nature sometimes of humanity and all that. So it is a very scorpionic frequency, and they focus a lot. The primary love stories in that show are more of a 360-degree approach of love. They let love play out in a lot of different forms, and they let beings who maybe started off madly in love with each other become extreme adversaries. And the show also plays around with people who are extreme adversaries becoming madly in love with each other and building a family. So they really play around with this 360 degrees of love. Sometimes it's a little uncomfortable to witness, okay? But there's a lot of codes that you can see within that. So anyways, Nick is the main character of the show. He's a cop. He finds out that he's a Grimm. Everything's going great. He has this woman that he loves. They're living together. Her name is Juliet. She wears a lot of red. That's a code in the show as well. He's about to propose to her. He's like, I want to spend the rest of my life with this woman. Everything's going great. But right when he is about to propose to her, his aunt comes and says, you know what, Nick, um, you're a Grimm. You can see what other people can't see. You can see that there are monsters in people. Okay. You can see that people morph into monsters. They're called Wesen, Wesen, Wesen. And you have this capability. Have you been noticing weird visions? And he had started seeing like monsters in people, and he thought he was going crazy. She was like, it's only going to get worse. They're after you. You're the biggest threat to Wesen. A Grimm is the biggest threat to Wesen. It's in our family to see Wesen, to fight them, to document our tales of them, to expose them, to keep them in line. Otherwise, sometimes they will wreak havoc on society. Okay. She's like, look, you need to break up with your girlfriend Julia to keep her safe. Okay. You need to change how you're living your life. Okay. But to keep your girlfriend safe, you should break up with her. He does not do that. So he doesn't want to let her go. So he has to live a double life. He starts finding out that he's a Grimm. He starts seeing the monstrous nature of other people, and he actually befriends a werewolf. Okay, he's not like other Grimms. Usually, Grimms are just supposed to hunt the Vessin. He actually decides to be more of a bridge with them. So he connects with this werewolf, and yeah, and then he's like off having secret meetings with this werewolf. Juliet knows that something weird's going on, but Nick can't actually tell her. He can't actually tell her, like, hey, I'm a Grimm, because he'll look crazy, you know? But being a Grimm, having that inner sight to see beyond what regular society can see, makes him a much better cop. He's able to crack cases that no one else can crack. Okay. And it gets to a point where his partner, who's his best friend, starts like getting weirded out by Nick. He can't figure him out. He's like, how did you know how to crack this case? What are you seeing that I'm not seeing? Okay. And just his partner's proximity to Nick and his inner sight, really he's having a serpentine awakening. He's able to start, seeing out of his pineal gland, and that's really what's happening. But even his partner's proximity to Nick actually starts rubbing off on his partner. And his partner starts seeing the Vessin or the monsters and people too. And he thinks he's going crazy. And Nick has to do a lot of gaslighting to maintain the boundaries between one world and the next. And so that he doesn't look crazy, he has to gaslight the people around him who see something odd happening, because a lot of odd things start happening in his world. People start following him for no reason. People start treating him differently, and the people around him can't fully understand. But to keep his cover, he has to gaslight, and it makes other people think, like, am I going crazy? Am I being weird? And this is happening a lot with his girlfriend Juliet. And finally Nick asks her to marry him, and she's just like, you know what, I don't want to marry you. I love you, but I feel like you're hiding something from me. Until you tell me what you're hiding from me, I can't marry you. Okay. Then she gets caught up in the whole Vessin world. She becomes a target. She becomes a target by this witch who's known as being a hexen beast by the name of Adeline Shade. Adeline is in her villain era. She's a complete villain, okay? She does everything that she can to make Nick's life a living hell. And she does it through his weakest link, which is his girlfriend, Juliet. So she ends up casting curses on her. She does all this stuff to make Juliet's life a living hell, okay? Um, Nick did not listen to his aunt's advice, who said, hey, if you love your girlfriend, you should break up with her. He didn't want to do that. He didn't want to let her go. So what happens is, because Nick brings Juliet into this world without actually sharing what this world is, she becomes a target. She becomes a mark. She's wearing red in almost every episode because she's Little Red Riding Hood. She is out in the woods where all these monsters are around, and she's prey just because of her proximity to her boyfriend, who's a Grimm, okay, who is an adversary to this monstrous realm, quote unquote. And finally, and Juliet, and as I was watching this show, I'm like, maybe they should just break up. Like, there's times where I'm like, they really should just break up. This is getting bad. This is only going to get worse. I'm looking at this, I'm like, this relation, and they're not even getting married, so why are they together? It just seems like it's just going down a bad path. I could see that, and I'm like, oh my. And her not knowing the full story makes her basically a liability to Nick the Grimm, okay, and he's a liability to her. So it's like they're not safe for each other. So I was like a little confused about this. I'm like, they should really just maybe break up. But you know how that is. Sometimes you're in a relationship where, yeah, it's not really good for you, but you don't want to give it up for whatever reason. So it just becomes toxic. So that's kind of what happens throughout the series. But an interesting dynamic happens. Through a lot of the curses and the spell work from this hexen beast known as Adeline Shade, basically Juliet ends up becoming a Vessin. She ends up becoming a hexen beast. She ends up gaining access into this parallel realm that Nick has always had access to. By this time, she had already found out that Nick was a Grimm, and she was doing her best to support Nick in whatever way. She was a veterinarian, so she's playing this like mistress of beast archetype. I've done content around the mistress of beast. Basically an energy of a feminine who's really attracted to the beastly nature of things, okay, the animal through animals, okay. So she's a veterinarian. She's utilizing her mistress of beast archetype sometimes to support Nick with being a Grimm. So she's always playing supporting role to Nick, okay. She's always his rock, and weird stuff happens. Their house gets broken into, people shoot at her, people shoot at him. I mean, it is not a safe place, okay. Their whole life is all, they go on a, throughout the whole series, they maybe go on a vacation one time, and he's once again going to try to propose to her, but then there's a whole murder situation that they have to, there's never peace in this. It's like, well, what's the benefit? There becomes a time, though, when Nick loses his powers to this Hexen beast known as Adeline Shade. She makes it so he can't be a Grimm anymore and he can't see. And the only way, and Nick he's so sad about this, basically. He doesn't want to admit it. At the time, Juliet's kind of happy because she's like, well, maybe we can have a happy life now. He's not a Grimm anymore. He's not in this weird parallel monstrous realm. Maybe people won't shoot at us or try to kill us all the time. Maybe we could just be normal like it used to be. But Nick really doesn't want that. And basically, Juliet sees that it's not making Nick happy. And so she sacrifices herself to get his powers back. She has to participate in this very weird ritual in order for him to, that has to do with sex magic, for him to get his powers back. And she does it. But the ritual ends up backfiring, and she ends up becoming the Hexen beast that was adversarial towards Nick. Okay, she's actually a stronger version of this Hexen beast. And a Hexen beast is basically a beautiful woman who can turn into a vicious old hag at any moment and basically overpower any predatory nature. An extreme, like, has extreme powers. Also beautiful, can also dominate through sex as well. Can also dominate through different forms of manipulation, spell work, herbalism, all this kind of stuff. Has supernatural powers. But that was not a part of the plan, okay? And to be honest, the whole show, Nick is completely grossed out by Hexen beasts. He hates them the most. All of a sudden, through this sex magic ritual, his girlfriend, the one that he loves, turns into the thing he hates the most. She doesn't tell him for a while. She's scared because Nick is a Grimm. He's trained to kill beings like her. So her boyfriend, who's supposed to have her back, now all of a sudden he is a threat to her livelihood. She's like, I didn't want you to kill me. That's why I didn't tell you in the beginning that I was a Hexen beast. So meanwhile, she's trying to figure out these new powers. And she actually starts liking them. I mean, can you imagine? You're a human one moment, and yeah, you can turn into a weird, vicious hag at the drop of a dime, but you can also overpower any enemy. You've been walking around as Little Red Riding Hood, the sacrifice, this whole time. And now all of a sudden, you're so powerful and you can do telepathy and you can do all this stuff. She doesn't want to give the power away. Okay, she doesn't want to give the power away so much that they become like the worst enemies. Okay, she goes from being his biggest support to his worst enemy, because she's like, you know what? I wanted a normal life. You didn't want that. You wanted to be a Grimm. I sacrificed myself for you to get your powers back. But you can't even look at me now. You can't accept me the way I accepted you. We're not even. And she's like, I don't want to give my powers away. That's what, because he's like, we're going to fix this. I'm going to make you normal again. She's like, I don't want to be normal. I see why you wanted to stay a Grimm. I like this power. I like being able to see into these other realms. Why can't you accept me the way I accept you? Okay. So really, there's an issue with Juliet, who does a lot to sacrifice herself on behalf of her partner. And she becomes more powerful than her partner. And all of a sudden, her partner can't handle it. And it's hard. And it drives a rift. Unfortunately, this ends up becoming a weird manipulation thing. Then all of a sudden, the Hexen beast known as Adeline Shade, who was the bane of Nick's existence, she does this weird destiny swap, and in a weird twist of fate, ends up having Nick's baby. Which now it's all messy. It's all messy because the person he hated the most, now he's having a baby with. Okay, the person he loved the most now is his greatest enemy. A whole bunch of stuff happens. Anyway, I haven't seen the full series, but the way it turns out, which gets really, really weird, is that Nick ends up with Adeline Shade, this Hexen beast who basically destiny swaps Juliet, the mistress of beasts. Okay. But here's an interesting thing that happens with their relationship. As Juliet becomes this Hexen beast and this powerful being, she stops wearing red. They don't put her in red anymore. She's not Little Red Riding Hood. As it grows into her power, she also gets more opportunities. She gets opportunities through these energies of the royal family. She also unfortunately lets herself be manipulated through them. But through the rise of these powers and moving into these other dimensions, she's able to have more access to things, and she doesn't want to let it go. So what ends up being their greatest force of tension is power. Okay, and who outranks who. So, anyways, that relationship ends up in tragedy, and through a twisted turn of events, Nick, who started off with Adeline Shade being his worst nightmare, actually, that was the first monster, quote unquote, or Vessin he ever saw, was her. And he was completely disgusted by her. Then they end up being a family, and they actually end up having something that works through a weird, twisted turn of events. Okay, so anyways, getting into, if you want to see how deep this whole 360 degrees of love goes, you can check out that movie, or not that movie, that show. What I will say though is the biggest thing related to that show was self-love and how much you value yourself, because Juliet, she was marked for sacrifice from the beginning of the show, and she ended up being sacrificed throughout that particular series in a variety of different ways. And it was because she did not value herself first. She didn't love herself enough first. She externalized her love into her partner. Okay, so she was manipulated in that way. Meanwhile, Adeline Shade, who was hella shady in that show, okay, who was an extreme villain in that show, she was always in her villain era. But one thing about Adeline Shade is that she knew who she was. And she always, like, she got put into weird sacrifice scenarios as well, but she always found a way to turn it around, to turn it in her favor, because she prioritized herself. And in that show, oddly enough, she got everything. She got everything by prioritizing herself. So, the 360 degrees of love of Anana, first and foremost, you need to love yourself, put yourself first. And that's going to trigger a lot of people, because in the simulation that's based upon sacrifice, and that a lot of times is based upon the sacrifice of the feminine, it's going to seem like you're doing the exact opposite wrong thing when you put yourself first. Okay, because if you are externalizing love outside of yourself, then even if you are very powerful, which Juliet became extremely powerful, even more powerful than Adeline Shade, but she allowed herself to be manipulated because there was a lack of self-love. She poured so much into this external partnership that this partnership literally destroyed her. And Nick played a role in destroying her. He did not take the advice of his family member who knew this way of life and said, you really need to break up with her. But he chose to stay with her, or in another realm, you could say he chose that for her to continue to be a sacrifice on behalf of him. So Adeline Shade, as shady as she was, as much of destiny swapping that she did, and the destiny swap worked. Okay, so here's the dark side too, because we want to think that, oh, if a destiny swap happens, then you can reverse it. Da, 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 da. No, no, no. Sometimes it actually does work. The destiny swap does stick, depending upon the consciousness in which it's made. Okay, and it was done by a being who always put herself first, who, no matter what kind of situation she was in, and there were many times she was marked for sacrifice, she always flipped it, because she was always out for herself first. She knew that her destiny began and ended with her. So she was unshakable. And she basically ended up taking over Juliet's life, to be quite honest. Okay. And Juliet became a weird sacrifice. It was kind of hard to watch after a certain point. I'm like, oh, this is really awkward, because I've literally been Juliet. Like, this is really hard for me to see. But, I had to look at things from a 360-degree approach and be like, you know what, though? Adeline, she always gets herself out of the gnarliest situations because she trusts and believes in herself over everyone else. If everybody else does her dirty, she knows she has herself and she can get herself out of anything. So it's harder for her to be manipulated. So things go her way. Okay? So it's not just about having power, it's about, do you love yourself? Do you trust yourself first and foremost? All the other stuff comes because you have that unshakable belief in yourself and knowing that you can get yourself out of anything. And as shady as Adeline Shade was, it certainly did work for her. And through that trust and belief in herself, she was actually able to mellow out and not be a villain, and actually able to stay a Hexen beast, keep her powers, and Nick, her partner and the father of her children, was cool with it. What the power that disgusted him the most, because she was able to stay true to herself, and mediate the powers within herself, then her partner was able to accept her in her full totality, something he was never able to do with Juliet. So, 360 degrees of love sometimes can be awkward. Okay. Sometimes the person that you love the most can be your greatest adversary in another realm. Literally, the person that you may have made vows to, the person that you thought you could trust with anything in another realm could be who's sacrificing you. And then on that other realm, the person who's your greatest adversary can give you the greatest gifts. Okay. And it can evolve you the most. So Grimm really gets grim with it. Okay. There's a lot of gore in this show. There's a lot of interesting mythology that you can learn in this show as well. And they really they go with this 360 degrees of love, how quickly love can turn to hate, and all the degrees of love and power together. Very scorpionic. So if that's something you're interested in, I'll recommend that particular show. Okay. So I don't even know how to say your name. I'll just say 876. You say bullshit. No such thing as. What are you talking about? Come on. Give me some more interaction. Like, make a sentence that I can understand so I can actually respond to you. But yeah, that's where we're going to actually end it though. Okay. The 360 degrees of love is not cookie cutter. And as much as you want to be a hero, if you've been a hero, or if you've been the chosen one, or if you've been the savior, or if you've been sacrificing yourself on behalf of everybody else, that is an incomplete version of life. What about you in your villain era? You might need to move into the villain era as well to have a more full spectrum approach to life and love. So that's what I ended today. Sending y'all lots of love, joy, and peace until we meet again. Bye.